Ah, I muted myself. See? See, I don't know what I'm doing at any given moment. If anyone thinks I know what I'm doing, they would be sorely mistaken. Ah, but the captions are working for working. What is what is my malfunction today? Oh gosh. Hello, Chaos of Lady. Hi, how's it going? Ah, man. I feel like I've been having a major malfunction all day, but I've actually been quite productive. You know, doing laundry and dishes and things. Which, fun fact, did you know? If you put a pepperoni through the dishwasher, it'll come out without color. It'll come out like gray. Don't ask me why there was a pepperoni in my dishwasher. That's a bad question. Just accept this knowledge into your brain. Pepperonis come out gray. Yeah, my just brain isn't rightly wording. Yeah, you've got the idea. Yes, null, monochromatic, pepperoni. Okay, the story there is that I simmer pepperoni in my tomato sauce whenever I make spaghetti because it tastes delicious when you do that. And I don't always like rinse my pots out before I put them in the dishwasher because why would you? That's the dishwasher's job. So there was a pepperoni in there, I guess. Like everyone tells you, you gotta rinse your dishes before you put them in the dishwasher. Do I look like I am a puppet for machines? Not yet. Hopefully. I mean, arguably, I am right now. Especially if an AI is like scrubbing the stream for information. Well, joke's on them. There ain't nothing worth collecting here. Does the title still say Suika game? It really shouldn't. It's not supposed to. I thought I changed it. Oh, and there have been follows since I've been off. Ira TV, Mage Arts. Oh, Mage Art, Mage. Mage is great. I met Mage at the VTuber prom the other day. She's just lovely. And by lovely, I mean heavily concerning. Like everything about that woman. It makes me concerned for her mental well-being. But otherwise, she is great. Yes, the AIs are collecting my pepperoni knowledge. They couldn't even get it from a real Italian. They had to get it from me. My pepperoni knowledge. I'm a pepperoni goblin. Pepperoni goblin. Anyway, I mentioned this on Twitter. I'm using a slightly new setup today, and in the course of using that slightly new setup, I got very, very annoyed. See, okay, here's the thing. So, like most VTubers, I am now using my phone to do my lip syncing. Beforehand, I had been doing a webcam, and I had been letting my CPU process all of it. But my CPU has been a real bottleneck in the stream. So I was like, okay, I'm going to finally set up my phone for this. I'm going to pay VTube Studio, all that stuff. And it's working pretty good. The lip syncing is good, I think. But now I've run into a new problem. All right? To plug my phone into my computer, and I could do it over Wi-Fi. I could do it over Wi-Fi and fix everything about this problem, but I don't wanna. I don't want to do that. That feels bad. That feels wrong. So I had to plug it into my computer, right? Which takes up one of my USB ports. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 no, not even. Wait, pause champ. Three USB ports that I can use at any given moment. There's supposed to be 5, but on this PC, 2 of them are taken up by fucking VR set only USB ports, where if you try to plug anything into them, they fail. They just fail. They overcharge and they fail instantly. So I have 3 USB ports. So I've got one for my mic, I've got one for my phone, and I have one for my mouse. My keyboard is on Bluetooth right now. All right, I don't even get to plug my keyboard in during the stream because I don't have enough USB ports, and that got to me. Because you know what else I have on this computer? You know what else I have? 6 HDMI ports. I counted 6. I could plug 6 monitors up to this. I can't plug in more than 4 devices. More than 3 devices. That to me is abominable. That's a crime against nature. Who would need 6 monitors and only like a keyboard and a mouse and maybe a plug for your headphones, for your USB headphones? What? Who built this computer? I know who built this computer. I'm gonna take it up with him later. But like, who does that? Who puts in so few someone with 6 eyes? Oh yeah, a biblically accurate angel built this computer. That makes sense. Who needs USB movie hackers? A biblically accurate angel that's trying to hack into the motherboard, trying to hack into the mainframe. All right. all the little feathers on all the little wings typing on the one keyboard for all 6 monitors. Maybe 2 keyboards, and 1 mouse across all 6 monitors. Oh, and a VR headset, because those ports can only go to a VR headset. What in the world? Does this make any sense to anybody? Like, I could cover this wall in front of me in monitors, glorious monitors, and just have my one little mouse icon to scroll between all of them. That makes no sense at all. But that's how this PC is built. Also, during this process, I was trying to play with display settings because I was thinking, oh, I could just plug my Switch directly in on one of my many HDMI ports. No, you can't do that. But while I was trying to do that, I found out that I had my monitor at like 60 hertz when this thing can support a whole 200, and I turned that on, and good God, I thought I was having a stroke because everything is so smooth now. All right, I've been using less than a fraction of my monitor's full power. Less than a fraction, man. If that fraction was 1/2, it's less than that fraction specifically. Less than a fraction is such a weird phrase, isn't it? Like, oh, it's less than a fraction. Well, which fraction? 1/3? 2/4, which is also 1/2, 3/7. I don't know. Which fraction are we talking about? Everything is technically smaller than a fraction of something else. If you want to define that fraction as like 99/100ths, then yeah, you're only using a fraction of your full power. Fractions, man. Fractions suck. Just stick with decimals. Who needs fractions? Except for, like, bakers. But even then, you could do decimals. What's wrong with you, bakers? Speaking of bakers and their weird mathematizing, the baker's dozen. That's not a dozen, that's 13. That's unlucky, bakers. But what do I know? I don't make bread that much. I'm joking, I make a lot of bread. You may have noticed I'm in a bit of a ranty mood tonight. My voice took a little bit of a hit over the last couple of days, and now it is back in full force, and I am talking. You see, it feels very good. But how's it going with everybody else? How's it going? We're doing some catch up right now. The streams have been a little bit sporadic lately. What's going on with y'all? While I pull up Dracula here. Let's see, chapter 6 is what I'm looking for. Yes. You know, if I just go straight in, I don't even have to cut that much of the stream. That was because of the Bakers Guild regulations. If they undersized the rolls, they were in big trouble, so they just threw in an extra to be safe. Big government. Big government messing with our math. That's all that is. That's just big government. I know guilds aren't technically government, all right? I know that. It's big bakery. It's big bakery. They're trying to chip us out of an extra roll. What in the world was that with my mouth? Roll. It just sliding across my face. That's interesting. Like I'm watching the tracking over here, and it's like my mouth just tried to ditch me, go to another dimension. I almost lost my lips. Larry was right. You can lose your lips. Do I need to sing the Love My Lips song? Make sure they stay on my face? They packed a bag and headed... You know, now that I say that as an adult, my lips packed a bag and headed south sounds unspeakably naughty. That sounds so bad. They packed a bag and headed... Like, I know what that's supposed to mean. Like a geographic location south of your position. But that is not what it sounds like. They packed a bag and headed south. Oh my gosh. I mean, not until Anna's in the chat, at least. Come on now. Oh, man. Oh, I wonder how much of VeggieTales you could do that with. Just unintentionally super dirty references. Need to go to the SFW chat with that. Maybe later. Maybe later. Maybe later. Oh, man. All right. I have Dracula pulled up, and I see no reason to delay because I could not get the game working tonight. But I'm hoping... Oh, it's doing it again. That by using my phone for stuff and offloading some of that CPU usage, I will have less problems playing games for you guys. At least until my new laptop comes in. When the laptop comes in and it can run the games, and I can just run it over with, wait a second, am I going to run into the same problem then too? Because I was planning on using my capture card to run it over. But I can't do that. If I don't, I'm going to have to get a USB hub at some point. I think that's going to be the solution here. I'm going to have to get a USB hub. But yeah, that'll play the games, and it'll port, and then it'll look so good. It may even look Sugoi. All right. All right, it is time. It is time for some Dracula. We're going to get into it. A little reminder of what we have left in Chapter 5. We got to see the stories of 3 different proposals. And those proposals were very interesting. This girl got 3 proposals in one day. She had to turn down 2 of them. Had to turn them down. Oh, did I lose tracking? There I am. And then at the end of that chapter, we saw that all 3 of those guys still went out to the bar for a drink together, even though 2 of them got totally blown off by Miss Lucy. So now we get to chapter 6, which is we start here at least. I'm not sure if we go through the whole chapter with it, at Mina Murray's journal. Mina, of course, being the fiance of Jonathan Harker, who we believe may in fact be deceased at this point, because I mean, you don't really survive Dracula's castle, so he's probably dead, which means Mina's on the market, which I mean anyway, from Mina Murray's journal, the 24th of July, Whitby. Lucy met me at the station, looking sweeter and lovelier than ever, and we drove up to the house at the Crescent, in which they have rooms. This is a lovely place. The little river, the Esk, runs through a deep valley which broadens out as it comes near the harbor. A great viaduct runs across with high piers, through which the view seems somehow further away than it really is. The valley is beautifully green, and it is so steep that when you are on the high land on either side, you look right across it, unless you are near enough to see down. The houses of the old town, the side away from us, are all red-roofed, and seemed piled up one over the other, anyhow, like the pictures we see of Nuremberg. Right over the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes, and which is the scene of part of Marmion, where the girl was built up in the wall. It is a most noble ruin, of immense size and full of beautiful and romantic bits. There's a legend that a white lady is seen in one of the windows. Between it and the town there is another church, the parish one, round which is a big graveyard, all full of tombstones. This, to my mind, is the nicest spot in Whitby, for it lies right over the town and has a full view of the harbor and all up the bay to where the headland called Kettleness stretches out into the sea. It descends so steeply over the harbor that part of the bank has fallen away, and some of the graves have been destroyed. In one place of the stonework of the grave stretches out over the sandy pathway far below. There are walks with seats beside them through the churchyard, and people go and sit there all day long, looking at the beautiful view and enjoying the breeze. I shall come and sit here very often myself and work. Indeed, I am writing now with my book on my knee and listening to the talk of 3 old men who are sitting beside me. They seem to do nothing all day but sit up here and talk. The harbor lies below me, with, on the far side, one long granite wall stretching out into the sea, with a curve outwards at the end of it, in the middle of which is a lighthouse. A heavy sea wall runs along outside of it. On the near side, the sea wall makes an elbow crookedly inversely, and its end too has a lighthouse. Between the 2 piers there is a narrow opening in the harbor, which then suddenly widens. It is nice at high water, but when a tide is out, it shoals away to nothing, and there is merely the stream of the Esk running between banks of sand with rocks here and there. Outside the harbor on this side, there rises for about half a mile a great reef, the sharp edge of which runs straight out from behind the south lighthouse. At the end of it is a buoy with a bell which swings in bad weather and sends in a mournful sound on the wind. They have a legend here that when a ship is lost, bells are heard out at sea. I must ask the old man about this. He is coming this way. He's a funny old man. He must be awfully old, for his face is all gnarled and twisted like the bark of a tree. He tells me that he is nearing 100, and that he was a sailor in the Greenland fishing fleet when Waterloo was fought. He is, I'm afraid, a very skeptical person, for when I asked him about the bells at sea and the white lady at the abbey, he said very brusquely, "How wouldn't my..." Well, that is weird accent coming out there. Don't know what that was. I wouldn't fash marshal about them, miss. Them things be all wore out. Mind, I don't say that they never was, but I do say that they weren't in my time. They be all very well for comers and trippers and the like, but not for a nice young lady like you. Them feet folks from York and Leeds that always be eating cud, herrings and drinking tea and looking out to buy cheap jet would create aught. I wonder myself who'd be bothered telling lies to them. Even the newspapers, which is full of full talk. I thought he would be a good person to learn interesting things from, so I asked him if he would mind telling me something about the whale fishing in the old days. He was just settling himself to begin when the clock struck 6, whereupon he labored to get up and said, I must get onwards from home now, miss. My granddaughter don't like to keep waiting when the tea is ready, for it takes me time to crumble a bone of geese, for there be many of 'em, miss. I lack belly timber sairly by the cloak. He hobbled away, and I could see him hurrying as well he could down the steps. The steps are a great feature on the place. They lead from the town up to the church, and there are hundreds of them, I do not know how many, and they wind up in a delicate curve. The slope is so gentle that a horse could easily walk up and down them. I think they must have originally had something to do with the abbey. I shall go home too. Lucy went out visiting with her mother, as they were only duty calls. I did not go. They'll be home by this. Thick accent on that guy. I know you guys can't see it, but that guy's accent, I was reading as written. Lots of misspellings and apostrophes in that one. Tried to communicate the meaning, but I'm sure I butchered it. The 1st of August. I came up here an hour ago with Lucy, and we had a most interesting talk with my old friend and the 2 others who always come and join him. He is evidently the Sir Oracle of them, and I should think must have been in his time a most dictatorial person. He will not admit anything and downfaces everybody. If he can't out-argue them, he bullies them and then takes their silence for agreement with his views. Lucy was looking sweetly pretty in her white lawn frock. She has got a beautiful color since she has been here. I noticed that the old men did not lose any time in coming up and sitting near her when we sat down. She is so sweet with old people. I think they all fell in love with her on the spot. Even my old man succumbed and did not contradict her, but gave me double share instead. I got him on the subject of the legends, and when he went off at once into a sort of sermon. I must try to remember and put it down. It be all fool talk, lock, stock, and barrel. That's what it be, and naught else. These bonds and wafts and borghost and boggest and boggles and all it, and there's only fit to set barns and dizzy women a beldrin. They be naught but ablibs. They and all grims and all signs and warnings be all invented by parsons and ilsome book bodies, and well-rated touters to skeet and scunner halflings, and to get folks to do something that they don't other inclined to. It makes me ireful to think of them. Why, it's them that, not content with printing lies on paper and preaching them out of pulpits, does want to be cutting them on the tombstones. Look here around you, and what you will. All them stands holding up their heads as well as they can out of their pride as a cant, simply tumbling down with the weight of the lies written on them. Here lies the body, or sacred to the memory, wrote on all of them, and yet nigh half of them there been no bodies at all, and the memories of them been cad a pinch of snuff about, much less sacred. Lies all of them, nothing but lies one kind of another. My God, but it'll be a square scoundrement at the day of judgment when they come tumbling up in their death socks, all jumped together and trying to drag their tombstones with them to prove how good they was. Some of them trimming and dibbling, and their hands dozing and slipping from lying in the sea that they can't even keep their grip on them. I could see from the old fellow's self-satisfied air and the way in which he looked round for the approval of his cronies that he was showing off. So I put in a word to keep him going. Oh, Mr. Swales, you can't be serious. Surely these tombstones are not all wrong. Yablins, there may be a poorish few not wrong, saving where they make out the people too good. For there be folk that do think a bomb bowl be like the sea, if only it be their own. The whole thing be only lies. Now look you here, you come here a stranger, and you see this Kirkgarth. I nodded, for I thought it better to assent, though I did not quite understand his dialect. I knew it had something to do with the church. He went on. And you causing that all these stands be abone folk that be happen here snug and snod? I assented again. Then that be just where the lie comes in. Why, there be scores of these lay beds that be tomb as old Dunn's back a box on Friday night. He nudged one of his companions, and they all laughed. And my cook, how could they be otherwise? Look at that one. They're aftest to pass the buyer bake. Read it. I ran over and read it. It said Edward Spenklaw, master mariner, murdered by pirates off the coast of Andres, April 1854, about 30. When I came back, Mr. Swales went on. Who brought I home? I wanted to happen here. Murdered off the coast of Andres, and you consented his body to lay under. Why, I could name you a dozen whose bones lie in the Greenland seas above. He pointed northwards. Or where the currents may have drifted them. There be the sterns around ye. Ye can, with your young eyes, read the small print of the lies from here. This great wrath Lowry, I knew his father, lost in the lively off Greenland in 20. Or Andrew Woodhouse, drowned in the same seas in 1777. Or John Paxton, drowned off Cape Farewell a year later. Or John Rawlings, whose grandfather sailed with me, drowned in the Gulf of Finland in 50. Do you think that all these men would make a rush to Whitby when the trumpet sounds? I have me anthems about it. I tell you that when they got here, they be jumbling and jostling one another that way that it wouldn't be like a fight up on the ice in the old days, when we'd be at one another from darlight to dark and trying to tie up our cuts by the light of the aurora borealis. This was evidently local pleasantry, for the old man cackled over it, and his cronies joined in with gusto. But, I said, surely you're not quite correct, for you start on the assumption that all the poor people or their spirits will have to take their tombstones with them on the Day of Judgment. Do you really think that will be necessary? Well, what else be their tombstones for? Answer me that, miss. To please their relatives, I suppose. To please their relatives, you suppose. This he said with intense scorn. How will it pleasure the relatives know that lies is wrote over them, and that everyone in the place knows that they be lies? He pointed to a stone at our feet, which had been laid down as a slab, on which the seat was rested close to the edge of the cliff. Read the lies on that struffsten, he said. The letters were upside down to me from where I sat, but Lucy sat more opposite to them, so she leant over and read, Sacred to the memory of George Cannon, who died in the hope of a glorious resurrection on July 29th, 1873, falling from the rocks at Kettleness. This tomb was erected by his sorrowing mother to his dearly beloved son. He was the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. Really, Mr. Swales, I don't see anything very funny in that. She spoke her comment very gravely and somewhat severely. You don't see aught funny? But that's because you don't gum the sorrowing mother was a hill cat that hated him because he was accursed. A regular lamenter he was, and he hated her so that he committed suicide in order that she mightn't get an insurance she put on his life. He blew nigh the top of his head off with an old musket that he had scaring the crows with. 'Twa'n't for crows then, for it brought the clegs and the doubts to him. That's the way he fell off the rocks. And as to hopes of a glorious resurrection, I'd often heard him say myself that he had hoped to go to hell, for his mother was so pious that she'd be sure to go to heaven, and he didn't want to addle where she was. Now, isn't that Stan at any rate? He hammered it with his stick as he spoke. A pack of lies? And won't it make Gabriel cackle when Geordie comes panting up the graze with a tombstone balanced on his hump and asks it to be took as evidence? I did not know what to say, but Lucy turned the conversation as she said, rising up, Oh, why did you tell us of this? It is my favorite seat, and I cannot leave it, and now I find I must go on sitting over the grave of a suicide. Oh, that won't harm you, you pretty, and it won't make poor Geordie gladsome to have so trim a lass sitting on his lap. That won't hurt you. Why, I've sat here on and off for nigh 20 years past, and it hasn't done me no harm. Don't ye fash about them as lies under ye, or that doesn't lie there either. It'll be time for you to be getting scat when you see the tombstones all run away with, and the place as bare as a stubble field. There's a clock, and I must gone. My service to you, ladies." And so he hobbled off. Lucy and I sat a while, and it was all so beautiful before us that we took our hands as we sat, and she told me all over again about Arthur and their coming marriage. That made me just a little heartsick, for I hadn't heard for Jonathan for a whole month. The same day, I came up here alone, for I am very sad. There is no letter for me. I hope there cannot be anything the matter with Jonathan. The clock has just struck 9. I see the lights scattered all over the town, sometimes in rows where the streets are, and sometimes singly. They run right up the Esk and die away in the curve of the valley. To my left, the view is cut off by a black line of roof of the old house next the abbey. The sheep and lambs are bleating in the fields away behind me, and there's a clatter of a donkey's hoofs up the paved road below. The band on the pier is playing a harsh waltz in good time, and further along the quay there is a Salvation Army meeting in a back street. Neither of the bands hear the other, but up here I hear and see them both. I wonder where Jonathan is, and if he's thinking of me. I wish he were here. Now, it looks like we're going to turn to Dr. Seward's diary. If you don't remember, Dr. Seward is the psychologist of sorts. He runs a mental hospital, an asylum. He was also rejected by Miss Lucy. We turn to Dr. Seward's diary on the 5th of June. The case of Renfield grows more interesting the more I get to understand the man. He has certain qualities very largely developed: selfishness, secrecy, and purpose. I wish I could get at what the object is of the latter. He seems to have some settled scheme of his own, but what it is I do not yet know. His redeeming quality is a love of animals, though indeed he has such curious turns in it that I sometimes imagine he is only abnormally cruel. His pets are of odd sorts. Just now his hobby is catching flies. He has at present such a quantity that I have had myself to expostulate. To my astonishment, he did not break out into a fury as I expected, but took the matter in simple seriousness. He thought for a moment, then said, "May I have 3 days? I shall clear them away." Of course, I said that would do. I must watch him. The 18th of June, jumping forward quite a bit. He has now turned his mind to spiders, and has got several very big fellows in a box. He keeps feeding them with his flies, and the number of the latter is becoming sensibly diminished, although he has used half his food in attracting more flies from outside to his room. The 1st of July. His spiders are now becoming as great a nuisance as his flies, and today I told him he must get rid of them. He looked very sad at this, so I said that he must clear out some of them, at all events. He cheerfully acquiesced in this, and I gave him the same time as before for reduction. He disgusted me much while with him, for when a horrid blowfly, bloated with some carrion food, buzzed into the room, he caught it, the fly, held it exultantly for a few moments between finger and thumb, and before I knew what he was going to do, put it in his mouth and ate it. I scolded him for it, but he argued quietly that it was very good and very wholesome, that it was life, strong life, and gave life to him. This gave me an idea, or the rudiment of one. I must watch how he gets rid of his spiders. He has evidently some deep problem in his mind, for he keeps a little notebook, in which he is always jotting down something. Whole pages of it are filled with masses of figures, generally single numbers added up in batches, and then the totals added in batches again, as though he was focusing some account, as the auditors put it. The 8th of July. There is a method in his madness, and the rudimentary idea is my mind is growing. It will be a whole idea soon, and then, oh, unconscious celebration, you'll have to give the wall to your conscious brother. I kept away from my friend for a few days so that I might notice if there were any change. Things remain as they were, except that he has parted with some of his pets and got a new one. He has managed to get a sparrow, and has partially tamed it. His means of taming is simple, for already the spiders have diminished. Those that do remain, however, are well fed, for he still brings in flies by tempting them with his food. 19th of July. We are progressing. My friend has now a whole colony of sparrows, and his flies and spiders are almost obliterated. When I came in, he ran to me and said he wanted to ask me a great favor, a very great favor, and as he spoke, he fawned on me like a dog. I asked him what it was, and he said, with a sort of rapture in his voice and bearing, a kitten, a nice little sleek playful kitten that I can play with and teach and feed and feed and feed. I was not unprepared for this request, for I had noticed how his pets went on increasing in size and vivacity, but I did not care that his pretty family of tame sparrows should be wiped out in the same manner as the flies and the spiders. So I said I would see about it, and asked him if he would rather not have a cat than a kitten. His eagerness betrayed him as he answered, "Oh, yes, I would like a cat. I only asked for a kitten lest you should refuse me a cat. No one would refuse me a kitten, would they?" I shook my head and said that at present I feared it would not be possible, but that I would see about it. His face fell, and I could see a warning of danger in it, for there was a sudden, fierce, sidelong look which meant killing. This man is an undeveloped homicidal maniac. I shall test him with his present craving and see how it will work out, and then I shall know more. 10 p.m. I have visited him again and found him sitting in a corner brooding. When I came in, he threw himself on his knees before me and implored me to let him have a cat, and that his salvation depended on it. I was firm, however, and told him that he could not have it, whereupon he went without a word and sat down, gnawing his fingers, in the corner where I found him. I shall see him in the morning, early. 20th of July. Visited Renfield very early, before the attendant went his rounds. Found him up and humming a tune. He was spreading out his sugar, which he had saved in the window, and was manifestly beginning his fly-catching again, and beginning it cheerfully and with a good grace. I looked around for his birds, and not seeing them, asked them where they were. He replied that they had all flown away. There were a few feathers around the room, and on his pillow a drop of blood. I said nothing, but went and told the keeper to report to me if there was anything odd about him during the day. The attendant has just been said to me that Renfield has been very sick and has disgorged a whole lot of feathers. My belief is, doctor, he said, that he has eaten his birds, that he just took and ate them raw. 11 p.m. I gave Renfield a strong opiate tonight, enough to make even him sleep, and then took away his pocketbook to look at it. The thought that has been buzzing about my brain lately is complete and the theory proved. My homicidal maniac is of a peculiar kind. I shall have to invent a new classification for him and call him a suffragus maniac. What he desires is to absorb as many lives as he can, and he's laid himself out to achieve it in a cumulative way. He gave many flies to one spider, many spiders to one bird, and then wanted a cat to eat the many birds. What would have been his later steps? It would have almost been worthwhile to complete the experiment. It might be done if only there was a sufficient cause. Men sneered at vivisection, and yet look at its results today. Why not advance science in its most difficult and vital aspect, the knowledge of the brain? Had I even the secret of one such mind, did I hold the key to the fancy of even such lunatic? I might advance my own branch of science to a pitch compared with what Bird and Sanderson's physiology or Ferrier's brain knowledge would be as nothing. If only there was a sufficient cause. I must not think too much of this, or I may be tempted. A good cause might turn the scale with me, for may not I, too, be of an exceptional brain congenitally? How well the man reasoned. Lunatics always do within their own scope. I wondered how many lives he values a man, or if at only one. He has closed the account most accurately, and today begun a new record. How many of us begin a new record with each day of our lives? To me it seems only yesterday that my whole life ended with my new hope, and that truly I begun a new record. So it will be until the great recorder sums me up and closes my ledger account with a balance to profit or loss. Oh, Lucy. Lucy, I cannot be angry with you, nor can I be angry with my friend whose happiness is yours, but I must only wait on hopeless and work. Work! If only I could have as strong a cause as my poor mad friend there, a good, unselfish cause to make me work. That would be indeed happiness. We're going to turn back to Mina Murray's journal now, on the 26th of July. I am anxious, and it soothes me to express myself here. It is like whispering to oneself and listening at the same time. And there is something about the shorthand symbols that makes it different from writing. I am unhappy about Lucy and Jonathan. I had not heard from Jonathan for some time and was very concerned. But yesterday, dear Mr. Hawkins, who is always so kind, sent me a letter from him. I had written asking him if he had heard, and he just said the enclosed had just been received. It is only a line dated from Castle Dracula and says that he is just starting for home. That is not like Jonathan. I do not understand it, and it makes me uneasy. Then, too, Lucy, although she is so well, has lately taken to her old habit of walking in her sleep. Her mother has spoken to me about it. We have decided that I am to lock the door of our room every night. Mrs. Westerna has got an idea that sleepwalkers always go out on roofs of houses and along the edges of cliffs and that get suddenly wakened and fall over with a despairing cry. Poor dear. She's naturally anxious about Lucy, and she tells me that her husband, Lucy's father, had the same habit. That he would not get up in the night and dress himself and go out if he were not stopped. Lucy is to be married in the autumn, and she is already planning out her dresses and how her house is to be arranged. I sympathize with her, for I do the same. Only Jonathan and I will start in life in a very simple way, and shall have to try to make both ends meet. Mr. Holmwood, he is the Honorable Arthur Holmwood, only son of Lord Godalming, is coming up here very shortly, as soon as he can leave town. For his father is not very well, and I think dear Lucy is counting the moments till he comes. She wants to take him up to the seat on the churchyard cliff and show him the beauties of Whitby. I dare say it is the waiting which disturbs her. She'll be all right when he arrives. 27th of July. No news from Jonathan. I'm getting quite uneasy about him, though why I do not know. I do wish that he would write, if even only a single line. Lucy walks more than ever, and each night I am awakened by her moving about the room. Fortunately, the weather is so hot that she cannot get cold, but still the anxiety and the perpetually being wakened is beginning to tell on me. I'm getting nervous and wakeful myself. Thank God Lucy's health keeps up. Mr. Holmwood has been suddenly called to ring to see his father, who has been taken seriously ill. Lucy frets at the postponement of seeing him, but it does not touch her looks. She is a trifle stouter, and her cheeks are a lovely rose pink. She has lost that anemic look which she had. I pray it all last. The 3rd of August. Another week gone, and no news from Jonathan. Not even to Mr. Hawkins, from whom I have heard. Oh, I do hope he is not ill. He surely would have written. I look at that last letter of his, but somehow it does not satisfy me. It does not read like him, and yet it is his writing. There is no mistake of that. Lucy has not walked much in her sleep the last week, but there is an odd concentration about her which I do not understand. Even in her sleep she seems to be watching me. She tries the door and, finding it locked, goes about the room searching for the key. 6th of August. Another 3 days and no news. The suspense is getting dreadful. If only I knew where to write to or where to go to, I should feel easier. But no one has heard a word of Jonathan since that last letter. I must only pray to God for patience. Lucy is more excitable than ever, but is otherwise well. Last night was very threatening, and the fishermen say that we are in for a storm. I must try to watch it and learn the weather signs. Today is a gray day, and the sun, as I write, is hidden in thick clouds high over Kettleness. Everything is gray, except the green grass, which seems like emerald amongst it. Gray, earthy rock, gray clouds, tinged with the sunburst at the far edge, hang over the gray sea, into which the sand points stretch like gray fingers. The sea is tumbling in over the shallows and the sandy flats with a roar, muffled in the sea mist drifting inland. The horizon is lost in a gray mist. All is vastness. The clouds are piled up like giant rocks, and there is a brool over the sea that sounds like some presage of doom. Dark figures are on the beach here and there, sometimes half shrouded in the mist, and seem men like trees walking. The The fishing boats are racing for home, and rise and dip in the groundswell as they sweep into the harbor, bending to the scuppers. Here comes old Mr. Swales. He's making straight for me, and I can see by the way that he lifts his hat that he wants to talk. I have been quite touched by the change in the poor old man. When he sat down beside me, he said in a very gentle way, "I want to say something to you, miss." I could see that he was not at ease, so I took his poor old wrinkled hand in mine and asked him to speak fully. And so he said, leaving his hand in mine, "I'm afraid, my dearie, that I must have shocked you by all the wicked things I've been saying about the dead and such like for weeks past, but I didn't mean 'em, and I want you to remember that when I'm gone. We old folks that be daffled, and with one foot aback the crook hall, don't altogether like to think of it, and we don't want to feel scarred of it, and that's why I took to making light of it, so that I'd cheer up my own heart a bit. But Lord love ye, miss, I ain't afraid of dying, not a bit. Only I don't want to die if I can help it. My time must be nigh at hand now, for I be old, and 100 years is too much for any man to expect. And I am so nigh that the old man is already whetting his scythe. You see, I can't get out of the habit of coughing about it all at once. The chops will rag as they used to be. Some day soon the angel of death will sound his trumpet for me. But don't ye darling great, my dearie, for he saw that I was crying. If he should come this very night, I'd not refuse to answer his call. For life be, after all, only a waiting for something else than what we're doing, and death be all that we can rightly depend on. But I'm content for us coming to me, my dearie, and coming quick. It may be coming while we're looking and wondering. Maybe it's in that wind out hole of the sea that brings with it loss and wreck, and sore distress, and sad hearts. Look! Look! He cries suddenly. There's something in that wind and in the horse beyond it that sounds and looks and tastes and smells like death. It's in the air. I feel it coming. Lord, make me answer cheerful when my call comes. He held up his arms devoutly and raised his hat. His mouth moved as though he were praying. After a few minutes' silence, he got up, shook hands with me, and blessed me, and said goodbye, and hobbled off. It all touched me and upset me very much. I was glad when the Coast Guard came along, with his spyglass under his arm. He stopped to talk with me, as always he does, but all the time kept looking out at a strange ship. "I can't make her out," he said. "She's a Russian by the look of her, but she's knocking about in the queerest way. She doesn't know her mind a bit. She seems to see the storm coming, but can't decide whether to run up north in the open or to put in here. Look there again! She has steered mightily strangely, for she doesn't mind the hand on the wheel. Changes about with every puff of wind. We'll hear more of her before this time tomorrow." And that's the end of chapter 6. A strange wind blows and brings with it a Russian ship, determined to go further north, but perhaps forced to take a harbor here. How curious. How curious indeed. We'll now go to the peanut gallery. Any thoughts on this chapter? I will say, he said it was a Finnish man, but I don't know what a Finnish accent sounds like, so I defaulted to Irish, and I think I got the point across well enough. We got a lot of interesting looks here, right? We've got the insane guy who only wants to absorb life. He's like a foil for Dracula. In that way, we can understand Dracula a bit more without actually having to deal with him. And it kind of sets him up. I wonder if that guy's going to become a vampire later and become an issue. But also we get that poor old man who's so afraid of death he can't help but belittle the dead, and yet at the end comes to terms with it. That's something that Dracula could never do. Dracula definitely fears the dead, but he can never come to terms with dying. That's why he's Dracula. That's why he has to absorb the lives of others. In both ways, these men act as foils for Drac, which is terrifyingly interesting to me, isn't it? It's such good writing. Stoker is such a good writer. Because otherwise, if you don't understand that these are both foils for Dracula, this chapter means nothing. You could just skip it and just skip to the part about the boat coming in, right? But both of these men, through their stories, Stoker is telling us something about the vampire who we're going to have to face here. It's that he's afraid of death and can't face it, and wants to absorb life in order to avoid it. He has neither the dignity of the old man nor the vitality of the young psychopath. Well, that's why I'm here, Null. See, Dracula exists in this kind of terrible in-between place where he cannot be the penultimate of anything. He doesn't possess life fully enough. Neither does he possess death fully enough. He's caught in between in a terrible state from which he's constantly trying to claw out of, too terrified to see what might fully become of him if he were to die, and not able to fully come to life. I realized they were foils about halfway through the chapter because I was like, why in the world are we listening to this old guy complain about dead people? And then it hit me about halfway through, like, oh, it's because Dracula would do that. I get it now. It's because Dracula would do that. We're learning about Dracula here without ever invoking his name. It's a form of writing that is almost not used anymore, introducing side characters like this in order to teach us something about the main villain through similar psychologies. No one really writes like that anymore, and I think it's because no one reads like that anymore. I mean, most people, upon reading this chapter, I don't think would realize what was attempted here by Stoker, and I believe he succeeded very well. But I don't think the general population would be able to understand it anymore. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and we won't get into them. But, you know, part of why I started this channel and everything is because I want to encourage people to read deeper and to write deeper, right? Like, respect your audience enough to write something truly great and understand that they might not be able to understand it. And that's how you know you've passed the test of time, when you're not worried about who understands it, but you're just writing at the foremost of your ability. At least that's what I think. Well, let's see. We've only been on about an hour. I'm tempted to try and find a game for us tonight and see what we might do. How about it? How about we switch to a game? Let me mark this place. And let me see real quick if I can pull up a game for us. Let's see. We're doing Bookworm later this week. Let's see. Can I pull up Genshin? We're gonna try and play some Genshin. If it launches anyway. Because now we can take the time to do some testing. Like the whole USB rant earlier is so we can test and hopefully play games better. I'm gonna move my mic here a little bit. Sorry if you hear any metallic sounds. All right, let's move over to here. Gotta log in before I show you guys anything. But yeah, nice little chapter of Dracula there. We learned a lot. Oh wait, did I start OBS in admin mode or not? Because if I didn't, I won't be able to capture it. I'll have to like pause the stream and everything, and I don't want to do that. I should be able to capture it, right? I guess we'll find out. Yes, colorful exposition simulator. That's almost the same. It's kind of hilariously not the same, but it's almost the same. Now let's see. Can I get it to work? Capture specific window. May have to run as admin to use the game capture. That's a warning built into OBS, so I don't know. Can you guys see it? No, you can't. Well, if Genshin won't play nice, we will not try Genshin. We will move on and play Coral Island instead. Because Genshin just loves being a little stick in the mud. Or actually, why are you doing that, computer? I hit the Y key. I didn't commit a heinous crime. I don't have it installed, do I? The one time I want to go back to an old game and I don't have it installed. Shame on me. Alright, we're going to try Coral Island anyway. Oh no, was my category Genshin Impact for all of Dracula? That hurts. That's painful. Let's see. Oop. Why is it not filling the screen correctly? Fit to screen, please. Here we go. All right. It's not Genshin, but it'll work. And hopefully it won't lag on us too badly since we're not pulling as much CPU at the moment. Hopefully. I did run Coral Island offline the other day for a little bit, and I do want to apologize to the devs because I don't think it is actually poorly made at all. I think it's just that my CPU is not the best in the world. Like my here's the thing that's really annoying to me. My graphics card is barely getting used by anything, and my CPU is carrying everything. And I thought that's what the point of the graphics card was, to like carry some of this. Is that just me? All right. Loading. We love it. I swear, the new computer's coming. It's supposed to be. Hopefully by Christmas. If I'm lucky. It might be January still. Oh, I'm getting told that my encoder is getting overloaded. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to work. I'm going to hate it if I did all this work for nothing. Oh, it's a guy. Oh, it's a bear. Hello, Mark. He's here to give me info. The cavern's open. Cool. It was closed? Question mark? Yeah, I caught all of that. The Band of Smiles cleared up the top levels? No monsters anymore. Okay. Monsters? All right, dude. Thank you for coming by, I guess. Odd dude. Oh, look. The flowers are ready. Game? Okay, it just took it a second there for some reason. Ah, yes. This is the good life. Playing Harvest Moon. Kind of. Ah, yes. Now let's see. We were going after... Here, I'm going to drop off these turnips first. I think I need the daisies. Let's see. Yeah, this should be fine. I remember there's crafting in this game. And it is possible to craft a bouquet out of fiber and any flower. And the single mom kind of liked that. So we're going to do it again. Just because I don't want to risk it. And I wonder if I just craft a bunch of bouquets if they'll sell for more? Probably, right? Oh, there she is now. Hello, single mom. Hello, Miss MILF. Yeah, so glad winter is over. It's not my favorite season or anything. Oh, that's why her and Alice look alike. I should have caught on to that. Should have caught on to that. All right, and that's it. I've exhausted her talking and given her a gift. That's all I can do there. The music is cutting out randomly, which is very funny to me. But otherwise, the game's working okay. I guess for right now, I'll clear out more of the field, because at this point, I've got to go buy some seeds today and plant a bunch of stuff. That's got to be like priority numero uno. So the easiest way to do that is going to be by clearing out a bunch more space. It's a bit laggy on your end. Thank you for the heads up, Null. I was hoping that would not be the case. Nuts. See, I think this is going to happen with any game I play, though. It's running my avatar and the game at the same time. Like if I wasn't a VTuber, I don't think I would be having these issues. Is my thought process. which is sad. Laggy how, by the way? Like, is the stream stuttering? Because the gameplay... I turned down the encoder to try and make things a bit smoother. I can turn the encoder back up. Here, let's bump it up a few levels here. And actually, while I'm at it, can I can't downscale at all. Maybe if I downscale to out of 1080, I would be fine. Because that just takes less to do, you know? Oh, you need 5 of any flower? That's a lot. Okay. It See, I'm not sure how much experimentation I want to do with this when I've got the new computer coming in so soon. Like, I don't want to do a whole bunch of experimentation and then have it, you know, be worthless. Hard to say. Let's see, where's the general market again? There's Alice. There's the carpenter. Wine. Community center. Ah, okay. It's not too far away. Like, Null, is it unbearably laggy, or is it just a little bad? If it's unbearable, I might just cut stream short and go about doing some troubleshooting on it. And also making tacos. I gotta make tacos tonight. Gotta remember to make those tacos. Because I've got a pack of bison meat in my fridge, and it's been there for a week, and it's gonna go bad if I don't use it. I gotta make some tacos. I will say the loading screens aren't quite as bad now. I guess I just never appreciated how close to the limit I play on my CPU with most games. Because it always felt like the lag is continuous for the game and model, but the audio is good. Ooh, that is pretty rough. Audio is good. That's weird to me. Like, most of the time when you see lagging, it's like everything or nothing, you know? Also, we're back to the long ass loading screens. The music's trying so hard. Oh man. All right, all right. Abandoned ship. Abandoned ship. Let's find someone to stream or someone to raid. Let's find someone to raid. If I am not mistaken, I thought I saw Ellie pop up as live, which she shouldn't be. Her voice is shot right now, but if she is, I will raid her. Because Ellie is just the bestest. See, this is one of those things where I thought I could muddle through until I got to a point where my stuff came in. Like I was considering waiting till January to debut because of these issues. Like I knew this was going to happen. But I didn't want to wait, you know? Because I knew that waiting would absolutely destroy me. All right, we will raid Ellie. Huzzah! All right. Goodbye, Null. Thanks everyone for coming by. At least the Dracula part went well. I'll turn that into a video maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday. Who knows how my week's gonna go? But I'll see you all Tuesday with a game we know won't destroy my system, which is Bookworm. You know what? Maybe I should pick up Peggle. I think we could really rock some Peggle. I'll think about it more. Anyway, rating now.